Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and this is going to be another classic horror movie review for you guys, and this time I'm going to be reviewing a movie that I've wanted to see for a very long time, and that is, it's actually a thriller. It's more of a thriller than it is a horror movie. It's sort of half horror movie. It's a thriller with horror elements, definitely. It is the 1990 psychological thriller classic, Misery. Now, Misery is a movie I have always been very interested in. I've always really wanted to see this movie. And the interesting thing about this movie is I found out about this movie in the weirdest way. If you guys know the singer Pink, she actually released a song called Please Don't Leave Me, and the music video had referenced it. It was basically an exact remake of this movie, and that's how I found out about this movie. And when I found out about it, I'm like, I really want to see this. Definitely, I was very interested in it, and so I finally got Misery. And I wasn't actually planning on watching this year. I wasn't, I was planning on not watching it, but I found this in a 4-pack at Costco, and I'm like, yes, I need to get this. And I finally watched Misery, and overall, what did I think about Misery? Misery is an absolute masterpiece. I love this movie. I think this movie is absolutely fantastic. I think this might be one of my favorite movies, maybe even of all time. I think it's just such a great story, and probably the second best Stephen King movie I have seen portrayed, and it is just absolutely fantastic, and I loved every single minute of this movie. So, yeah, so as you guys can tell, I definitely really enjoyed it, and let's talk about Misery. First of all, what is the plot of Misery? The plot of Misery is a little bit complicated. It's a little, it's gonna take a little bit, to explain it, but let's just get to it. Basically, we focus on this writer, Paul Sheldon. Now, he is a very famous writer. He creates this very successful book series called the Misery series, and basically, he is trying to write his last book. He's trying to, basically, he wants to focus on more serious stories, because he writes these romance novels about a character named Misery Chastain, and he wants to focus on more serious stories, so he writes a manuscript on a new, unrelated novel that has nothing to do with that, and he ends up, traveling to Colorado, to his home in New York City. However, he's caught in a blizzard, and he ends up in a very bad car crash, like he's very severely hurt, and he's taken in by this nurse named Annie Wilkes. Now, she first comes across as very sweet to him, but she keeps, very sweet to him, and gives him a lot of hospitality. We find out that she's actually his #1 fan, and she keeps just saying to him, oh, once the road closed, I'll take you over to the hospital, and, everything will be fine. But she keeps saying that to him, and, even when the road closes, she doesn't really do anything with him. So eventually she finds out that, she's a huge fan of the Misery series. She's literally obsessed with it. That's basically what she revolves her life around. And she finds out that he's planning to kill off Misery in his next book, and that's basically when she goes complete apeshit. She starts torturing him, and basically doing whatever she can to get him not to kill off the Misery character, and that's basically what the movie's about. Now, there's also a subplot of an investigation going around surrounding Paul, and that's basically what the plot of Misery is about. So, that's a very engaging plot, definitely. It's something that I don't think I've seen in any other horror movie, and that's definitely something I love about Misery, definitely. And here's the thing with Misery. Misery could be a movie that is not portrayed very well at all. It could be a movie that's portrayed in a very bad way. It could be a movie that, is just okay. But the thing that makes this movie so good is the acting. The acting to this movie is absolutely amazing. And one of the things that I definitely love about this movie is, as I said, it has horror aspects. That's because a lot of this movie is very dialogue-driven. There's not a lot of, stuff going on until I'd say, like, the last 20 minutes of this movie. So let's just talk about the acting. First of all, our main star here is James Caan, and oh my god, he is perfect as Paul Sheldon. I could not see anyone else playing him. He is absolutely fantastic. I think he is just perfect in this role. Perfectly casted, definitely. I really cared about his character. You could see that he definitely wanted to move on to better things, and you really, wanted him to get out of this. You wanted him to get better, and I really like that about his character a lot. But by far, the best acting in this movie comes from Kathy Bates as Annie Wilkes, who, this is by far the best performance I've seen from Kathy Bates. She is so amazing in this movie. And the thing about her character, she's a very complicated character. I mean, she is one of the most scariest, movie moments. There's this movie, she's credited as one of the scariest villains of all time. And the thing is, she is definitely a very complicated character because she basically surrounds her life around this Misery series, and she plays the role perfectly. You know, there are a lot of times where she's very sweet to him, but the next second she'll just get very angry, and she portrayed it perfectly in a very creepy way. Definitely in a very creepy way, and she did it perfectly and just amazing. I mean, she was nominated for an Oscar because of this movie, and she definitely deserved it. That is why that's why this movie is so iconic, because of Kathy Bates. When people think of Misery, the first thing they think of is Annie Wilkes, definitely. That's what they think of in this movie. So, also, I did not realize how young Kathy Bates was in this movie. I was thinking that I'm so used to seeing her on like American Horror Story, so I didn't expect her to be as young as she was, and she was really young, but she was still definitely a very good actress. And I believe, I don't think it's one of her first movies or anything, but it was definitely one of her like most known roles, definitely. Then you have a couple other roles, not as important. Richard Farnsworth as Buster. He was really good. He's basically a detective surrounding his disappearance. And also, the really cool thing that I definitely really like about Annie's character is that she makes no one know that she actually is taking him in. Everyone thinks he just disappeared. No one actually knows what happened to him, and she does it. And, that's one of the things that's so great about her character, and definitely, that's all there needs to be said. The other acting is just okay. There's nothing much else to say about the other acting because there's not as much else, other acting going on except for with Buster. So besides that, that's really all to say about the acting. Let's get to directing this movie. The directing of this movie is absolutely fantastic. I think Rob Reiner portrayed it perfectly. He is such a good director, and I did not expect him to do this kind of movie, but he did it perfectly, definitely, and I really thought he portrayed it perfectly. The way he portrayed the characters was great. The way he portrayed the scenes was great. In the very first few scenes where we see Annie, she seems like this very sweet woman who is just sort of just like a number one fan, and she's a little bit crazy, but she gets crazier and crazier as the movie goes on. And Rob Reiner directed it perfectly. In fact, one of the scenes in this movie, the most suspenseful scene in this movie is actually not even a action scene. There's not even a lot of action going on. It's simple. Paul is trying to leave he's trying to escape while Annie is returning home, and it's just cut perfectly. The way that was done was a perfect scene, and part of that is due to the editing. The editing to this movie is absolutely fantastic. There was not one scene in this movie that I felt was not important. There was not one scene in this movie that I did not like. There was nothing that I felt should have been cut out. Nothing like that. I thought everything in this movie had to be in there. I thought everything was important, and you need to have every single scene in there, or else the movie would not be as good as it ended up being. And I definitely really enjoyed that about Misery, and that's definitely something I'm going to remember about Misery. And now let's get to the cinematography in this movie. Gorgeous cinematography, amazing cinematography. The scenes in the snow were great. The scenes in her apartment are great. Like, the sets were definitely really good, and I definitely really enjoyed that about Misery. It's a very claustrophobic movie because a lot of the times you're in this room with him and her basically, but there are times when it cuts to the investigation that's going on. But when it's with him, most times it's him trapped in her apartment, and it's very well done the way they portrayed that, definitely. So now we're going to get into some spoilers for Misery. So if you guys have not seen Misery, do not watch the rest of the review because I'm going to spoil a lot of really good things about the movie that I definitely want to talk about, and let's just get to it. So, of course, he promises to her that he's going to write Misery's Return. However, he tries to escape all those times, and for a little while, it was like, why isn't she realizing he's escaping? He keeps trying to poison her, he keeps doing whatever he can to kill her, and definitely one of the things I liked about Paul's character as the movie went on was how he basically made it seem like he was going along with how she was acting. He was acting like he was okay with what she was doing, and I thought that was definitely really cool, the way they portrayed that in the movie. That was definitely something I really enjoyed. Now, the other thing I really liked, about, was when, of course, he finds out that she quoted lines and she actually killed several other people. I thought that was an awesome twist when we found that out. That was not something I was expecting at all, and I thought that was just amazing that they did that, and that was just absolutely fantastic. And, of course, in that trial, she quoted lines from his Misery novels. That's how obsessed she was, and that's basically the moment you realize this woman is crazy. She is completely crazy, and that sort of made me have this theory that I don't know if it's true anymore. Am I the only person that thinks that she kind of has bipolar disorder? Because she will go from happy to sad in a second, and happy to, bitchy and evil in a second. So I kind of feel like she might have bipolar disorder. That's just my personal opinion. I don't know if you guys agree, but I kind of feel like she has bipolar disorder. And then, of course, Buster finds out what's happening to Paul. He, finds out what Annie's doing. But, of course, she kills him. And then she promises Paul the two of them are going to die together. She plans for the two of them to die. And I thought it was interesting that she actually said, that she's kind of suicidal even. I thought that was interesting. And then, of course, she's about to kill him. But then Paul decides, no, he's going to kill her. And the book is done. And he promises he's going to have it done. But then he ends up setting it on fire. And I thought that was an awesome scene when he did that. They get into that huge fight and everything. And that fight scene was amazingly choreographed. I gotta say, the choreography to the fight scenes were awesome. I love the choreography to the fight scenes. They were just absolutely fantastic. And then, of course, he kills her, which was very, very well done, definitely. And then, of course, the ending is very realistic because, of course, he's been held hostage by her. He's obviously not going to forget about her. And even though he's trying to forget about her, now basically every woman he sees that is a fan of his is basically going to be her. And that's basically going to be stuck with him for the rest of his life. And I think that was a great way to end the movie. Because even though you did want him, he does get a semi-happy ending, he still is going to remember her. He's not going to forget what she did, and he's still going to basically have her trapped in his memory, and there's nothing he can do about that. So I think that definitely is a very good way to end the movie, and I definitely really enjoyed that. So the other thing to talk about in this movie was the acclaim it got, definitely. People call this one of the best portrayed one of the best Stephen King adaptations to date, and I would definitely agree with that, because here's the thing. This is not a movie that should be remade. Never remake this movie, okay? I know a lot of people like to remake horror movies. This is not a movie that can be remade. First of all, the typewriter. If this was made today and they made it modern, he would be typing on a computer. It would not be as effective. The scene, would not be as good as a movie, and I like that it's a typewriter. It works for the movie. It makes the movie timeless, and one of the things I just love about it is that you cannot remake this movie. Just do not remake this movie. Just don't. It's that simple. Don't remake this movie. I could never see anyone playing these roles than Kathy Bates. Sorry guys, I'm getting excited about how as Misery. Definitely I could not see anyone else playing Annie Wilkes except for Kathy Bates. I couldn't see anyone else playing Paul Sheldon than James Caan. That's definitely something I will say right now, is do not remake this movie. Because I know Hollywood just loves to remake things. We know this from various other movies. And this is definitely one that I'm sure that if they got the chance, they would remake. Just don't do it. Please, don't do it. I really hope you don't. The other thing is that this movie got surprisingly a lot of Oscar buzz and Golden Globe buzz, especially for Kathy Bates, and I really wish she would have won it, because she was absolutely fantastic in the year that, she got this in. I don't know who won that year, but she definitely did deserve it. She was absolutely fantastic, and the thing with this movie is that it does have horror aspects to it, and while it is a movie that's not necessarily a horror movie, it has a lot of horror aspects to it, especially like the things with Annie, how crazy she is. Of course, there's that famous scene that is a spoiler. I forgot to talk about it. Of course, like the most famous scene in the movie is, of course, her taking that mallet and basically, breaking his ankles, and that's just crazy what happens there. There actually is a movie that's very much like Misery called Audition. It's very much like Misery. It's very different from Misery. It's more about, I think it's about like this girl who wants to get an audition from this guy, and she goes like extensive measures to get the audition. It's one of the most disturbed movies of all time. So I definitely want to check that out, definitely. But it seems a little too gruesome, because I know the most famous scene is like this girl cutting a guy's foot off. So that was actually originally what was supposed to happen in this. And Rob Reiner said he would do that, but I feel that he didn't want to do that just because he wanted to show the gruesomeness in a different way, and I like the way he shows it. He shows the gruesomeness in a very subtle way. Basically, we see it through Paul's eyes. We are basically like Paul, we're freaked out by this woman. We have no idea what her issue is. We're basically trapped with him throughout the movie, and I think that was definitely very well portrayed the way they did that, and I really enjoyed that about the movie, definitely. And that's basically all I have to say about Misery. I don't know what else to really say about it, except I love this movie. I encourage all of you to definitely see this movie. It's not a movie that a lot of people talk about, but I really wish that a lot more people did talk about, because this movie is probably one of my favorite movies of all time. I definitely really enjoyed it, and it is definitely probably my favorite of these classic horror movies I've watched so far this year. I love it to death. I think it is a great story. I think it's an amazing, amazing movie that all of you must check out, and I absolutely loved it, and just absolutely fantastic. All of you need to check out Misery, because it really, really is fantastic, and if you haven't seen it, just please watch it right now. And that's basically for my review of Misery. Let me know what you guys think of this movie. You know, what do you think of Kathy Bates? Do you think this movie could be remade today? I personally would hate it if this movie was remade today. I'd be really pissed if this movie was remade today, and I really hope it's not. I know Hollywood, though, they like to do these sort of things. They like to remake movies, but, you know, gotta do what Hollywood's gotta do what Hollywood's gotta do, I guess. But that's in my review. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in my next video, which will probably be for another classic horror movie, because I do want to review another classic horror movie too, guys. So I will see you, and that's not going to be up, though, until tomorrow, though, so I'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.